I can't believe they did it, dude. Dominik Mysterio, he is amazing, and they put the belts on him. Let's not get ahead of myself. Hello, everybody. My name is Sancho West, and welcome to Sancho West Wrestling. This is my channel where I talk about wrestling. If you love wrestling as much as I do, consider subscribing to the channel. This episode is a special episode because we are talking about AAA's Worlds Collide in Vegas, and let's just go ahead. We're going to talk about the overall vibe and then match to match. Overall, I love the show. I love the relationship that the WWE has fostered with AAA. It doesn't feel like that TNA relationship. I feel that it's not one-sided. I feel like the WWE superstars get to showcase themselves. If you watch my previous review of Triple Mania about 27 days ago, I've always said that it feels like the WWE has the great kind of like superstars, and when they kind of pivot and they become like a main event, like a mid-carder, so to speak, you could see how they could excel. They could see show the charisma, their charm, and it's the big case for Finn Bálor, right? But overall, I do feel that this show is in a weird place because of the commentary. Like Conan, Corey Graves, and JBL. Look, I don't want to bury Conan completely here because he is a legend in the AAA space. He's a famous luchador, WCW legend, things of that sort. But sometimes his energy just saps the commentary, right? And when I'm a caster for esports, there is these moments where you do like handoff batons, right? Just like imagine you're handing off baton to the other commentator, or you don't step on each other's toes, and that happens frequently with this trio. And it's not easy to have a three caster booth like this, especially that doesn't work all the time. So you have Conan, who is trying to educate people, and it doesn't work out, and sometimes because he is stepping on big moments or on big buttons, as they like to say in the business, where Corey Graves and JBL know about that. So it's a clashing of the styles that I don't know. I mean, we definitely have to explore it later. I think the WWE was definitely surprised that Corey Graves could be very strong and extreme knowledge, I want to say, on the AAA history and his knowledge of lucha. Like, he definitely does his homework. And then when you have Conan there, it feels very redundant and things that sort. So the chemistry is just off, and then sometimes Conan is just a little bit too on the nose as an observation. I'm going to stick with me here. I'm going to say like a metaphor. He feels like he's trying to be like Tony Romo in the NFL, where he's trying to call a spot ahead of time, and that's just so distracting. Like, he's going to go for the splash. Like, Conan, brother, you know what I mean? I get it. And he's a very too observative, like, in a sense of too on the nose with his commentary. It's like, yeah, we just saw that happen, Conan. But in the first match in that, you had an 8-man tag between Parka, Mascarita Sagrada, the Aztec Warriors, the Laredo Kid, and Wagner Jr. versus LWO of Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Phoenix, Lince, Dorado, and Mini Abismo Negro. And this was kind of one of these matches that I really did feel like it was at its best when it was moving, but it got kind of carried away at some points. But I understand, dude, that is lucha libre, that is AAA. And when it worked with me, when they were not trying to get everything in, there was literally one spot where they did off the turnbuckle out into the crowd like Torinos, like over and over again, and it kind of dilutes over time. But it's interesting to see that the LWO is working heel here, right? I found that very interesting, as typically the LWO is the uber maybe baby face of Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde, but instead they're working heel because they are technically outsiders when it comes to AAA and the WWE, despite being in Las Vegas in the United States. The best parts of this entire match was the Mascarita Sagrada spots, where they were very memorable with alongside Mini Abismo Negro. Those were very fun. And yes, they had a lot of cool high flying spots, and they had phenomenal charisma from Parka. I'm telling you, dude, Parka is awesome, man. All the emotes and all those things to build up the special. Parka just draws your attention. It kind of reminds me of the early days of Nakamura in the WWE. Is that everything that he does is so like, you just got your eyes glued on Parka, and then he's so tall and he has muscle behind it. It's very sneaky strength, and I absolutely loved it. Now, the ending felt very chaotic and messy, like I mentioned, with those all back-to-back Torinos and things of that sort, and it definitely capped off with that Joaquin slingshot, which has been something that's been very cool, but I just don't like the way they shoot it. Like, sometimes they get so close. I wish it was a far away shot so I could see how far he flies, but, you know, I just wish it didn't end up in a roll-up, you know what I mean? You have the nice moment between Mascarita and Mini Abismo Negro, and it ends in a roll-up, and it's a 1-2-3, considering that was so hard-hitting in all the spots. I would have loved to see Parka get the pin here, considering that I do see that there is so much promise for Parka in the WWE, considering he's a throwback to the WCW days in terms of the mask of Parka. And at the same time, you know, I thought they would be building up Wagner Jr. I mean, the WWE feels like they have so much investment in Wagner Jr., considering that he actually did wrestle at Money in the Bank. So many questions about that going forward, but at the end, it was a great way to kind of kick us off here. You know, I enjoyed that match very well. And your next next match was the number one contendership for the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship, which is their women's title. You had Natalya versus Faby Apache. They had their triple threat earlier 27 days ago at Worlds Collide against La Flamer, and instead of, you know, how that all went down with the crooked referee, so now you have these two to go for a singles match against La Flamer. And the biggest takeaway from this is Natalya as low-key legend, as Natty Neidhart, is really good. It's so aggressive, and I get flamed a lot on the timeline and on socials that it's like no one wants to see Natalya. No one wants to see babyface Natalya, okay? But this version of Natalya is awesome. Natty Neidhart works really well, and I've said this countless times when I talk about my SmackDown reviews on the Patreon of Wrestling is Cool with Santi. I always say this, it's like, bro, we need heels. The ladies need heels, because how many times is Nia Jax is going to show up against Tiffy? Natty Neidhart works really well. Just the demeanor, just the outfits, everything about Natty Neidhart could work in today's WWE, especially it's a good mix of strong style. And that's what this match kind of reflected. It really slowed down the pace compared to the opening match. It felt more grounded. You had a lot more grabs. You had more submissions hold. You had a nice surfboard from Natty Neidhart. And I absolutely like this vibe that it makes Natty look scary and makes her look like a threat. So I absolutely like this match. Even though it ended in, like, I like the way that Apache was trying to do the sharpshooter on Natty, and then it turned into one of these kind of combinations moments. It was basically a nice little technical roll-up from Natty Neidhart. I want to see a little bit more aggressiveness from Natty. Like, let me see a heel type of way to show her that she's out here to get that championship. And at least the Natty wins, and I'm hoping that low-key legend with the WWE behind her could make something happen against La Flamer. I don't want to see babyface Natalya. I want to see this Natty Neidhart. And then we get the pace goes a little bit slower because we get a tag match between Pagano and Psycho Clown against the New Day, against Xavier Woods, which he was supposed to wrestle, and then but it's Grayson Waller and Kofi Kingston, because Xavier Woods had to do some sort of mini surgery and things of that sort. It was very disgusting what he posted on timeline. This was for the AAA World Tag Team Championship. Now this match, it was interesting to see Grayson Waller and Kofi Kingston work together, considering that we haven't seen that much of it on TV. This pace was more of the WWE style. I enjoyed it much more when it leaned more into lucha style. Both teams really played into the crowd, which made the pacing even go further down. And like I mentioned, when you have more WWE style, when you have Psycho Clown and Pagano, it kind of just feels weird. It kind of feels out of place. They were building up for the hot tag for Pagano, and then that hot tag didn't really lead into a hot tag, because for those of you who know, in AAA, the tag team rules are kind of loose, man. The guys come in and out really fast pace. And when they were kind of restricted, it's interesting to me that the hot tag moment wasn't there. But it is kind of cool to see, like I mentioned, Grayson Waller and Kofi Kingston working on their chemistry. And it didn't feel like they were going to win the New Day, because it's Xavier and Kofi that were part of that 14-time championship reigns with the WWE, and of course alongside Big E. But I couldn't really feel that the stakes of the match felt like it was for that tag team title, right? It kind of didn't really have those kind of vibes until the end. Like the beginning and the middle felt like a standard WWE match that you would see on a SmackDown. And then of course, when it happens is, like I mentioned at the beginning, the commentary team would get distracted talking about clowns. I'm like, dude, you're taking away from this match. Sometimes as a commentator, you don't want to get yourself over. You want to get the talent over, but sometimes you just end up what we like to call in the business podcasting mode. And you just talk about a random subject, and that's what they were doing, just talking about clowns. Like they were talking about Pennywise and Doink the Clown, things of that sort. And like I mentioned, this match was so much better when it was focusing on the AAA style, and it's worse when it's the WWE style. The best part of this match, like I mentioned, was the comedic side when Xavier Woods was reacting to Psycho Clown's ripping of the clown face. That part was hilarious because he ran away like he was a cartoon character. And at the end of the day, you had the Pagano and Psycho Clown going over the New Day. But the next moment, I did not expect happening, brother. I could not. It was just as shocking as Omos showing up in the Battle Royale in the last Worlds Collide. The Wyatt 6 show up. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm not a big Wyatt 6 fan. It's simply because the Wyatt 6, I feel, weren't booked properly. I feel like in Triple H's era, we were heading in this Renaissance era that felt very grounded, and you introduce a supernatural thing. And when they first came out with a supernatural thing, they had Chad Gable. You're like, okay, they had a moment here. I'm like, okay, if you have the supernatural thing and you want to dive into the scariness of it, what it's going to be the payoff, right? Instead, what ended up happening was Gable didn't really get hurt in any kind of way. His psychosis didn't change. He was spooked and scared, but beyond that, it didn't do anything. But now the Wyatt Six are heels, and it's working a lot more. They got some heel wins. They win by numbers, and it absolutely fits their spooky vibe to a T, and it doesn't lean into supernatural too much. It just leans out to these people are scary. Think of like what's the word I'm looking for? What was that movie where at the very end, and it's they have the siren goes off. It's gonna bother me what the movie is. The Purge reminds me of The Purge, right? Just these characters that are dressing up in these strange ways and are out here to cause chaos, and it worked really, really well. They destroyed Pagano and Psycho Clown. I love kind of the spots that they did there, and Eric Rowan power bombing one into the table. That was nasty. And then you have the Sister Abigail from Uncle Howdy going CCC, bang, right on the chair. That was really nice. And then the image of them carrying both tag team titles. If they make the Wyatt Six a tag team belt collector, where they even get the TNA tag teams, maybe they get the NXT, that would be interesting, bro. That will be interesting. The next match we had was the mixed tag team of Lola Vice, Mr. Iguana versus Finn Bálor and Roxanne Perez. Now, this is what I love the most right here. The pace picks back up, and we get more back in the AAA. It's a mixture of smooth technical wrestling with a lot of great comedic moments here. Mr. Iguana, man, so smooth. Everything that he does in the ring is like accurate. Like, you know, you look at the earlier matches with Psycho Clown, Pagano, even you look a little bit further with the other guys, they're great and they're athletic, right? But they're not as smooth as Mr. Iguana. There's something about him that feels like everything he does is meticulously planned, and everything he does has those sweet details that just add those flavors to his wrestling style that makes it so engrossing to watch. And I absolutely love Mr. Iguana in this moment, and at the same time it brings out the charisma of Finn Bálor, dude. Finn Bálor having those moments with Dominito and things like that, like that was a fun moment. And I have to give a shout out to JBL because he really sold the scariness and the demon aspect of Dominito, and I just love him being over the top comedic, and that added a little flavor to the entire match itself. Roxy and Raquel look great as well, man. They just have those vibes when the Judgment Day show up at AAA, with even with their theme song that is not as good as the other side. It's still a great presentation, and they look scary. Lola Vice, I do feel that Lola Vice has everything going for her, but there's this one thing where it hasn't clicked yet. She does the moves well, she looks great, and she moves in the ring very confidently, but at the same time, there's just something quite not there. But so it was very important for Lola Vice to pick up the pin. My favorite moment throughout this entire match was the dive from La Yesca to Dominito, and I love the selling. I love Finn talking to Dominito like he was okay. Overall, it was a great match, and it was a great way to kick it back into the AAA spectrum of the thing. The next match was the Fatal 4-Way with El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. versus Dragon Lee versus Ethan Page versus JD McDonough for the AAA Latin America Championship. This was like their North American Championship. Now, this match was only 9 minutes and 56 seconds. I do feel that it's a kind of falls into two different sides of the coin. The one coin where it was all four in the ring, great. It was singles, okay, right? JD McDonough was the MVP of this match. I like JD. He felt like he was so confident, and he showed out, dude. The things that he was doing, the springboard moonsault was amazing. Everything that he did flowed so elegantly, and I absolutely feel like JD could deserve more flowers when he's on the main roster, because he shows out here down in the AAA side of things. Dragon Lee is also solid as well. Dragon Lee is a hard-hitting luchador that is, like I always said so many times, sneaky strength build. But at the same time, you're looking at Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. It feels like he's just sitting on the sidelines a little bit of this match. And then Ethan Page didn't really feel like a threat that he was able to win. Like, there were moments that Ethan Page was going to rekindle the magic that he had in NXT, where he would steal a pin on accident, especially that moment where he get knocked out by JD McDonough. But overall, a lot of this match is very not memorable, and except those moments where JD is the one that's leading, that's cooking. But at the end of the day, I do think they made the right decision by having El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. be the winner here, because I feel where Worlds Collide could definitely get boosted a little bit. It is a fun little vacation in terms of enjoying some great Lucha Libre stories and things like that, or in terms of wrestling. But when you had some stories matched to it, like the next match with Dominik versus Vikingo, then that's where things kind of pop off here. But I would have loved some build going into this fatal four-way at the AAA for that Latin American Championship a little bit, rather than just me bringing all the what I know to the table. I want the WWE to invest into that. And at the same time, this would be where TNA would be a great mix. Like, we don't need Dragon Lee and JD McDonough from the WWE. Maybe add a TNA guy, maybe, you know, mix it up a little bit to make it feel like a worlds collide. Because right now, the world feels like a North and South. Bring in some TNA and it just makes it feel like a little bit more international. I don't know. I feel like TNA just reminds me of like a different world altogether, even though it is a North American promotion. In your main event, you have Dominik Mysterio versus El Hijo del Vikingo. And brother, this is what I was waiting for. This was an 18-minute, 22-second banger. Now, this does fall into the common tropes of it's gonna be bloodline rules type of vibe. It falls into that what we had in the Worlds Collide back in Los Angeles, where all the characters do show up. We don't get all the Americanos, but we did get the big honcho of Grande Americano. But this is basically a Dom showcase. You see, we're seeing somebody who's been in the business for 20 years technically, but we've seen somebody who is taking that next step up, which is really, really cool. And I love when wrestling is patient with superstars to allow them to make that step up. And I think this is where the biggest benefit of having the AAA relationship, by having them under the umbrella of the WWE, that we could kind of mold and let a wrestler mature off the main roster, so that way they could now take whatever they learn in this promotion of AAA and take it to the main roster in the WWE. And Dominik Mysterio could definitely learn how to be the big heel of a promotion, how to be able to run the promotion as the face of the promotion, how to sell things and drive ticket sales, things of that sort. And it's gonna be really cool to see how can Dom handle this new spotlight, and I'm so excited for that. But he kind of takes that in the ring as well, being the mega heel, right? Controlling the pacing on the match. It's interesting though, it's very difficult for Dom to work a heel because he is mega over, right? Everybody wanted to see Dom win. And if you add to the fact that in AAA, no one likes Vikingo based on what he did, or what happened with Alberto Del Rio, it just adds to that. It felt like anything that Dom tried to get some heat on Vikingo was not working. And that's what made the match very weird and pacing wise, because anytime when Vikingo will make a comeback, no one really cared. Everyone was like, no, we don't want this. And of course, you can't really change the style. It's not like a Hogan Rock where all of a sudden Hogan flips babyface and Rock turns heel. That's not going to happen. Instead, you have Dom just working him against the wave, working against the grain. But it was really cool to see Dom get some chance, which is something that we never would have thought would have happened, considering that Dom was booed out of the building. But it just shows you when he was able to get away from Rhea and he's able to step away from Liv. I mean, yes, Liv to injury, and able to be on his own, he's able to succeed. And the reason why he was able to succeed, because they brought him down to AAA. Him cutting that promo in Spanish right before in Worlds Collide, before Money in the Bank, was amazing. And then him calling himself the Luchador King, the King of Luchadors, all that stuff is great. And like I said, when we get into the AAA rules, it was all fun. Very fun. It was very weird without AJ Styles, but I did like the kind of the details of the moment. And I like that Dominik Mysterio has been leaning on Grande Americano for so long, and it was actually Grande Americano able to help Dominik Mysterio and not Judgment Day. And it was quite interesting that Rey Mysterio still wants to stop his son from winning. And I wish they would just tell Rey to be like, hey, don't be so like negative, and don't be like, oh, you're gonna win whatever, mijo, type of thing. Actually say like, dude, fine, it's cool if you win. And if you win and if you become a champion, and it's the first time that a Mysterio is able to hold the big championship, the big mega championship, and every Mysterio, first time Mysterio to be a 2-belt champion, let Rey say you're doing it the wrong way. Because right now it comes off as Rey's not happy for his son, but we have to connect the dot that's because he's doing it the heel way. Because right now it feels like a rivalry between father and son, but you would think like a father would be happy for his son. But I wish that they just added that small detail, is like he's not doing it the right way, because what Rey comes off of is like, you're not gonna win. And there was that moment that they added backstage where Dominik Mysterio said, if I win, you have to put the belt on me. So I love the payoff that how that happens, right? Dom does a great job of still being that creep, like that annoying heel, that Weasley heel, that just like, hey, put the belt on me, dad, type of things. Like, no, you're gonna put this belt on me. Like, I love how aggressive he is towards that moment. If you think of like Becky and Lyra, right, how Becky was just like so nonchalant about it, good old Dom was being like demanding. He was like, put that belt on me, right? That was really cool. And then the interesting moment is Judgment Day come out to celebrate, and Dom kind of doesn't like, he accept hugs and things like that. He's like, has his arms down and gets hugged by Finn Balor, and everyone's like, all right. And then out comes Grande Americano, and he gives a big hug to Grande Americano, and they put it like right front and center of the hard camera, big hug. And you see like Finn Balor and JD like, what's up, and Roxy and Raquel. So I like this moment that the split has started, where Dominik Mysterio is going to start leaning towards Grande Americano, and I feel that hopefully this would be the split that Dom needs to get away from Judgment Day, because we have been seeing that when Dom is away from his father, away from Edge, away from Rhea Ripley, away from Damian Priest, away from Liv Morgan, away from Roxy, away from Finn, he does excel on his own. And I really do believe that Dominik Mysterio is ready to take a step away from Judgment Day to be able to thrive on his own. And considering if he's going to be down in AAA Mexico doing that, I think this is the perfect time to see the rise of the mature Dominik Mysterio. But that's my review of Worlds Collide in Vegas. Comment down below and let me know what you think and what was your favorite match. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.